Scoring rubric. A rubric is a coherent set of criteria for students' work that includes descriptions of levels of performance quality on the criteria. So rubrics by this definition differ from rating scales which have criteria but no performance level descriptions. It facilitates student self-assessment, facilitate teacher and peer feedback, and help students envision what to do to improve their work. So, the main purpose of rubrics is to assess performance made evident in process and in products. According to Mrs. Susan Brookhart, there are two major parts of rubrics. It is the coherent set of criteria and descriptions of levels of performance for this criteria. In coherent set of criteria, it expresses what to look for in the work, and in descriptions of levels of performance for this criteria will describe what of those criteria look like in a work at varying quality levels from low to high. So, the presence of both criteria and performance level descriptions distinguishes rubrics from other kinds of evaluation tools like the checklist and rating scales. And also, there are two types of rubrics, the analytic rubric and the holistic rubric. When we say analytic rubric, each criterion, the dimension, and the trait is evaluated separately because it explicitly breaks down an assignment into its constitutive skills and provides students with guidelines for what each performance level looks like for each skills. As you can see, an analytic rubric provides students with much clearer definition of the evaluation criteria. So, it is good for formative assessment. While holistic rubric, all criteria, the dimension, and the traits are evaluated simultaneously. So, in here, the scoring is faster than with analytic rubric, and it is good for summative assessment. To sum it up, analytic rubrics identify and assess components of a finished product, while holistic rubrics assesses students' work as a whole.
Holistic rubric is a single criteria rubrics or one-dimensional used to assess participants' overall achievement level. The next slides are just an example of holistic rubric for creativity. The very creative, ordinary or routine, and the imitative. In very creative, ideas represent a startling variety of important concepts from different contexts or disciplines. In very creative, ideas are combined in original ways to solve a problem, address an issue, or make something new. In ordinary or routine, the ideas represent important concepts from the same or similar contexts or disciplines. And last, in imitative, ideas do not represent important concepts. Ideas are copied from the sources consulted. Holistic rubric provides an overall description of the learning activity or task. It provides the students with broader expectations for the task to allow for a range of interpretations. Lastly, holistic rubrics provide staff with criteria to allow for more complex student responses or validity. When we open our books on page 55 to 62, there are examples of scoring rubrics adapted from Peter Hernon, Robert Dugan, and Patricia Benner. First is the remembering, second is the understanding, third is the applying, fourth is analyzing, fifth is the evaluating, sixth is the synthesizing, and seven is the self-assessment. Students will be expected to use technology ethnically to assess information and use productivity tools to solve problems and produce products and presentations. They will be expected to locate and analyze various sources of information for problem solving. Conducting research demonstrates an ability to operate technology. 2. Uses technology tools collaboratively, safely, and responsibly, and ethnically. Third, uses technology as a problem solving. Fourth, uses technological resources. Fifth, uses assessment resources. Sixth, uses to produce class assignments and projects. 7. Uses technology to locate, evaluate, and collect information from a variety of sources. And lastly, the self-assessment. It modifies performance based on assessments, and that is how scoring rubrics be used and determined.
In 4.8, assessment strategies and multiple intelligences. Learners have multiple intelligences and varied learning styles. Students must be given the opportunity to demonstrate learning that is aligned to the multiple intelligences and to their learning styles. It is good for teachers to consider the multiple intelligences of learners to enable learners to demonstrate learning in a manner which makes them feel comfortable and successful. Teachers truly consider learners' multiple intelligences when they make use of a variety of assessment tools and tasks. The theory of multiple intelligences, or MI, was first described by Howard Gardner in Frames of Mind in 1983. Gardner defines intelligences as an ability or set of abilities that allows a person solve a problem or fashion a product that is valued in one or more cultures. Gardner believes that different intelligences may be independent abilities. A person can be low in one domain area but high in another. All of us possesses the intelligences but in varying degrees of strength. His most current research indicates that there are 9 distinct forms of intelligences. In order to facilitate learning effectively, teachers should use strategies that match these kinds of intelligences. These are the 9 multiple intelligences. 1. Linguistic. 2. Math or logical. 3. Bodily or kinesthetic. 4. Visual or spatial. 5. Musical. 6. Interpersonal. 7. Intrapersonal. 8. Naturalist. 9. Existential. In linguistic intelligence, involves the ability to understand and use spoken and written language. This can include expressing yourself effectively through speech or written word, as well as showing a facility of learning foreign tongues. Howard Gardner's precise definition of this intelligence is linguistic intelligence is the sensitivity to the meaning of words, their order, sounds, rhythms, inflections, different functions of language, phonology, syntax, and pragmatics. This type of intelligence, also called verbal, allows us to converse with other people, write text, even write letters or emails. There are people who have this most intelligent intelligence, as can happen with writers, journalists, lawyers, poets, translators, teachers, etc. However, linguistic intelligence can be enhanced through various activities that you can start today. For example, enjoy reading and writing, debate or give persuasive speeches, or able to explain things well. Use humor when telling stories. Logical or mathematical refers to our ability to think logically, reason, and identify connections. People with mathematical intelligence are good at working with numbers, complex and abstract ideas, and scientific investigations. Learning through reasoning and problem solving, this intelligence is always valued in the traditional classroom and in traditional assessments of intelligence and achievement. Bodily or kinesthetic is a learning style often referred to as learning with the hands or physical learning. Basically, people with bodily or kinesthetic intelligence can learn more easily by doing, exploring, and discovering. Learning through interaction with one's environment. This intelligence is the domain of overly active. It promotes understanding through concrete experience. Visual or spatial. Visual or spatial is the learning styles that refers to a person's ability to perceive, analyze, and understand visual information in the world around them. Essentially, they can picture concepts with their mind's eye. These learners must see their teacher's actions and facial expressions to fully understand the content of a lesson. They are good at putting puzzles together, interpret pictures, graphs, and charts well. They enjoy drawing, painting, and visual arts, and they also recognize patterns easily. Visual or spatial processing is the ability to tell where objects are in space. That includes your own body parts. It also involves being able to tell how far objects are from you and from each other. For example, when kids practice dance moves they can see in a TikTok video, they using visual or spatial processing skills. In musical refers to the skills in the performance, compositions, and appreciation of musical patterns. It encompasses the capability to recognize and compose musical pitches, tones, and rhythms. People with musical intelligence are able to hear and recognize patterns easily. They are very sensitive to rhythm and sound. For example, they can easily distinguish the sound of a clarinet from the sound of a flute. Interpersonal. Interpersonal is the ability to understand and interact effectively with others. It involves effective verbal and nonverbal communication, the ability to note distinction among others, sensitivity to the moods and temperaments of others, and the ability to entertain multiple perspectives. This intelligence is learning through interaction with others. Intrapersonal. Intrapersonal intelligence are the individuals who are strong. Intrapersonal intelligence are good at being aware of their own emotional states, feelings, and motivations. They tend to enjoy self-reflection and analysis, including daydreaming, exploring, relationships with others, and assessing their personal strengths. Naturalistic. Naturalistic intelligence, according to Gardner, is the ability to identify, classify, and manipulate elements of the environment, objects, animals, or plants. They care about the environment and like to be in touch with nature. They are good at identifying fauna and flora, learning through classifications, categories, and hierarchies. The naturalist intelligence picks up on subtle differences in meaning. It is not simply the study of nature. It can be used in all areas of study. And existential. Existential intelligence is the ability to use intuition, thought, and metacognition to ask and answer deep questions about human existence. Sensitivity and capacity to tackle deep questions about human existence such as the meaning of life, why do we die, and how we get here. Learning by seeing the big picture. What is the place in my life, in my family, in school, and community? His intelligence seeks the connection to the real world, understanding the application of new learning. It is important to use their knowledge about thinking or learning style and multiple intelligences in planning activities to help our students learn effectively. It is clear that teachers can no longer just teach the textbook. It is a sensible practice to teach a child according to his or her thinking, learning styles, and multiple intelligences. In Table 5 is the list of assessment tasks for each intelligence. This is the right terms to assessment tools to bring out the multiple intelligences of the learners. In linguistic assessment tasks that can be used for their linguistic intelligence are the following. In linguistic, use storytelling, conduct a debate, write a poem, myth, legend, swordplay, or news article. Create a talk show, radio program, and conduct an interview. In logical, translate an idea into mathematical formula. Design and conduct an experiment. Make up syllogism to demonstrate. Make up analogies to explain and describe the patterns of symmetry. In bodily, create a movement or sequence of movements to explain. Make task or puzzle cards. Build or construct. Plan and attend a field trip. And bring hands-on materials to demonstrate. And visual, chart, map, cluster or graph. Create a slideshow, videotape or photo album. Create a piece of art that demonstrates. Invent a board or card game to demonstrate. And illustrate, draw, paint, sketch, or sculpt. In musical, give a presentation with appropriate musical accompaniment. Sing or rap or song that explains. Indicate the rhythmical pattern in. Explain how the music of a song is similar to. And make an instrument and use to it demonstrate. In interpersonal, conduct a meeting to address. Intentionally use social skills to learn about. Participate in a service project to. Teach someone about. Practice giving and receiving feedback. Intrapersonal, describe qualities you possess that will help you successfully complete. Set or pursue a goal. Describe one of your personal values. Write a journal. Assess your own work. In naturalist, create observation notebooks. Describe changes in the local or global environment. Care for pets, wildlife, gardens, or parks. Use binoculars, telescopes, microscopes, or magnifiers. And draw or photograph natural objects. And last, existential, which line of song is most meaningful to you? Why? Share your reflections on the meaning of life. What does the story tell about suffering? What does the statement tell about human life? And assess yourself. Do you find yourself more happy or not? Why? To sum it up, the 4.8 assessment of learning outcomes in the K-12 program, it is good for teachers to consider the multiple intelligences of learners to enable learners to demonstrate learning in a manner which makes them feel comfortable and successful. Under 4.8, we have 9 multiple intelligences. These are the following. Linguistic. Linguistic is the sensitivity of spoken and written language, the capacity to use the language to accomplish certain goals, or the learners called language smart. Number 2, logical or mathematical is the ability to detect patterns, reasons, deductive, and think logically, or they called logic smart. Number 3, bodily or kinesthetic is the ability to use mental abilities to coordinate bodily movements, or they called body smart. And number 4, visual or spatial ability is to recognize and use patterns of wide space or more confined areas, or they called picture smart. And number 5, musical. Musical is the capacity to recognize and create musical pitches and rhythmic patterns, or they called music smart. Number 6, interpersonal. Interpersonal is the capacity to understand intentions, motivations, and desire for other people, or they call people smart. Number 7, intrapersonal is the ability to understand oneself, to develop a sense to self-identity or self-smart. Then number 8, naturalistic. Naturalistic is the ability to understand the natural world or nature smart. And number 9, existential. Learning through seeing the big picture or spirit smart. Let's move on to 4.9, which is Assessment of Learning Outcomes in the K-12 program. April 1, 2015, DepEd Order Number 8, Series of 2015, the Policy Guidelines on Classroom Assessment for K-12 Basic Education Program. It allows the teacher to track and measure learners' progress and to adjust instruction accordingly. Classroom assessment informs the learners as well as their parents and guardians for their progress. Here are the assessment practices lifted from DepEd Order Number 8, Series 2015 for the guidance of all teachers. 1. Teachers must employ assessment methods that are consistent with standards. This means that assessment as a process must be based on standards and competencies that are stated in K-12 Curriculum Guide. Assessment must be based not on content but on standard and competencies. Therefore, there must be a line between assessment tools or tasks and standards and competencies. Number 2. Teachers must employ both formative and summative assessment, both individually and collaboratively. Assessment is done primarily to ensure learning. Thus, teachers are expected to assess learning in every stage of lesson development, beginning, middle, and in the end. Number 3. Grades are functions of written work, performance tasks, and quarterly tests. This means that grades come from multiple sources with emphasis the performance task from grade 1 to 12. Grade does not come from only one source, rather from multiple sources. And last, 4. The cognitive process dimensions given by Krathwohl and Anderson, year 2001, from remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating governs formulation of assessment task.